This is the NA Happy Hour.
Welcome to the NA Happy Hour podcast. We are so excited to have you here. Just to kind of get started, what we usually like to do is let our guests introduce themselves because there's inevitably some details that we miss in the extensive bios of everyone we have. So just to get it from the horse's mouth, if you wanted to go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, your involvement with the NA scene, we will dive right into it.
Awesome. Yeah. So my name is Julia and I am the Sober X Bartender. And I have been sober for a little over 15 months now. And I got involved in the non-alcoholic space about 15 months ago. I was a bartender before I got sober. And so I immediately started looking for what I could use to supplement that experience that I was used to having of making unique craft cocktails and also drinking them. And so I found the NA space and I was like, this is where I need to be. These are my people. And I immediately just started making non-alcoholic drinks. Within the last year, I made a website. I've written a couple of ebooks for mocktail recipes, and definitely looking towards the future of just continuing to grow with this space.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about how you originally got in? So you said you've been sober for 15 months. Can you talk a little bit about your story as to what kind of triggered you to become sober, become a member of the sober community? And to be clear, you are 100% sober or sober curious, for lack of a better term?
Or for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I am currently 100% sober. It's something that I don't foresee changing, but I also don't like to set strict rules for myself around it either.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel the need to drink anymore. It's not something that I think benefited my life personally. So definitely 100% sober for now. And as far as your other question, how I found the non-alcoholic space, I actually was on Instagram and I followed a lot of alcohol tags and a lot of cocktail tags and a lot of things related to mixology and bartending. And I started seeing these no and low drinks and no and low ABV drinks and these different tags. And I started getting interested and I'd follow these tags. And eventually I found the Sober Curious movement and all these different amazing mixologists who are making no alcohol drinks. And so literally non-alcoholic drinks is what got me interested in being sober, and not the other way around, which is so obscure. And I know that's not
really
very common for most people, but I was I found the drinks and then I was like, oh, well, that's an option. Well, great. I'm going to be sober then.
Absolutely, and I can relate to that as well. That's pretty much how it rolled with me, as well as the people. I found when I was more around those types of people that why even drink? You know what I mean? So it's kind of just contagious for sure. So I guess getting into it, can we maybe get into that love story? You know, how did can you maybe introduce you and your current and your husband and kind of how that all went? The sober romance love story, maybe.
My sober love story, definitely. So I wouldn't have met my husband if I didn't have a little bit of a problem with alcohol. And I wasn't an alcoholic. I don't identify as an alcoholic. I don't think that it's a bad thing if you are, of course, but it's not my story. However, I did drink a little recklessly. And one of the nights that I was drinking with a couple of friends, they drank substantially more than me, and somebody had to drive home. So they picked me as the person who was driving home. I wouldn't even say I was drunk. I would say I was just tipsy. I'd only had a couple drinks, but still I was I had this feeling oh, I probably shouldn't be driving. This doesn't seem like a good idea, but we have to get the car back somehow, the one reason that everybody gets a DUI in their life, probably. Mm-hmm. Well, we got to get the car back. But I ended up wrecking their car. It wasn't a bad wreck either. I literally like was going to back up from a hill and I accidentally went forward because I didn't realize that I was in reverse instead of or drive instead of reverse. So I like hit a parked car. Again, not a big deal,
Yeah.
but still, not the best. And so from then on, we're like, nope, like we're gonna take Uber. Like we're gonna take Uber, Lyft, wherever we go, when we're going someplace, and we know we're gonna be drinking because like you need to do that. It's responsible. And the first time that we decided to go to downtown Seattle again, we called a Lyft, like we said we were going to, and the driver was like so charismatic and he was so funny and he was just the coolest guy, and I was like, okay, well, this is great, like this is a good experience, I'm really glad we did this. And he ended up giving me his card and he's like, anytime you girls need a ride, like let me know. And I ended up calling him all the time to take me places. I'm like, will you take me here, will you take me here? One time I called him and I was like, will you take me to the airport? And like we went, it was like an hour-long drive, just me and him on our way to the airport. And at the end of it, I like told him, park the car, like come to Hawaii with me.
You said this should be like a Lyft commercial.
I was gonna say, like, that is that actually what happened? You just said park the car and let's go to Hawaii?
You need to go
Yes,
to Lyft.
I
with
actually
this
did
idea.
that. And he was like, no, I have like responsibilities, I can't just leave. But
see, yeah, you
it
should go
should
to
be a
Lyft
Lyft
with this
commercial.
idea. What a commercial!
Screw Lyft. You have to go to Disney with this idea. That's the epitome of like girl meets guy, falls in love, spontaneous. That is incredible.
Yeah, I know. It's so wild. I've told this story a couple times, and I always joke with people now. I was like, you don't need Tinder, you just need Uber. Like, download the app, jump in some cars, see who you meet. Like, there's a lot of great people out there.
Absolutely, but then money could be a cost with that one. You know what I mean? Tinder's free, but then it's hard
True,
to find
that's true.
commonality with people. So I feel like I don't know. Then again, it's hard to find
Yeah.
commonality with Uber, Lyft drivers.
I would
Yeah, it
have
was
thought
pretty
Uber
random,
was
I'm
going
not
to be the
gonna
one
lie.
to.
matchmake you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hey, you know.
Yeah, it was absolutely wild. And, of course, I'm so glad I did. We're married now. We've been together for over 4 years. So, like, perfect love story from driving a Lyft. But I wouldn't have gotten sober if I wouldn't have met him either. Like, some part of it
is
was
he
definitely that. He is, yeah. He's been sober his whole life. So he's never had a drop of alcohol. And that was something, too, where it was like seeing him living his life without alcohol was the first time I was like, oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
Like, that idea just didn't even exist for me. I didn't know anyone who didn't drink. I didn't know anyone who wasn't alcoholic or wasn't drinking regularly or wasn't, I mean, I was in the bar industry. My whole family drank. So it was just like, that was the first person I met that didn't drink alcohol. I was just blew my mind.
And did he not? If I remember correctly, he didn't drink. He doesn't drink because of religious reasons, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So his religion's against alcohol. And I know some people who are religious that their religions are against alcohol. They'll drink anyways. It's really a preference thing. But he never has. And I think there were sometimes that it was like, well, you could, but he just recognizes the things that it does to people's lives. And so he was like, I don't see why I would ever do that. I understand why why our religion says not to, like seeing what happens when some people drink. So
absolutely. So it goes from, you meeting this Lyft driver. So how did that first date happen? So like, how did that transfer over from?
Yeah, we're getting into the Valentine's season. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Let's give it a little notebook story here.
Yeah, I asked him to go to Hawaii with me, of course, and he was like, no, like I'm a responsible adult. I need to work, and I can't just leave my car and like run with you to Hawaii with no clothes, nothing packed. So he said no, but it was definitely like when we started talking a little bit more, and I think he recognized like, oh, I think this girl has a massive crush on me, just inviting me to fly to Hawaii with her. And So shortly after that, we went to a concert together. And then, we went to a concert, and then after the concert, we went to a hookah lounge, which actually we're opening a hookah lounge now. Our first date was at a hookah lounge, and now we're like,
That's awesome.
oh, let's just open one.
Absolutely.
But it was like these spaces where it didn't matter that he didn't drink and I did, because I wasn't drinking anyways. And a lot of our dates, a lot of the times that we went out, we just went to places where they were more focused on something else, you know? I feel like a lot of people, the first date is always like, oh, let's go get drinks. Oh, let's go get drinks. And, you know, when I would go and get drinks or go on a date, I feel like I would drink too much and I wasn't myself. But all of our dates, I was sober because he was sober. We were going to sober spaces. And so I think we really were able to connect on that deep level and just be like authentic with each other at all times. And so, yeah, it worked.
And what was that defining point when you're like, I'm just going to stop drinking? Like, how long into the relationship? And also, I don't mean to add another question to this, but how did he respond to you drinking since he didn't in that beginning phase of your relationship?
No, those are good questions. You know, a lot of people, it's like challenging to have those relationships where one person's sober and one person isn't. For him, he never felt like, his whole thing was like, I live my life the way that I want to. Why would I want you to do anything different? Like, so we've always just been really respectful of each other's differences and our similarities too, you know? And at the end of the day, like, it was never a problem that I was drinking. It just was a choice that he was not making. And he would drive me home. I mean, he would always pick me up, make sure I was safe. Like, I never had to worry about being in a situation where I didn't have a ride, you know? So it was kind of convenient in that aspect. Like, I didn't have to call an Uber. Like, it was just my boyfriend at the time, or my fiance.
Plug for driving.
You have an inside source, I guess.
Yeah, I always had a designated driver. Always had a designated driver.
It gave you more of a reason to drink if you think about it. I mean, not gonna lie. Yeah, it actually kind of gave you more of a reason to drink.
True, in some ways. But, you know, I think it just wasn't an issue. It was just something where he liked me for me, not for what I chose to do or what I chose not to do. And I felt the same way about him. But it was more like, eventually I realized, like, wow, this is a big burden for you. Like, my drinking is a burden for him, because he would have to pick me up. He would have to stay at the bar until 2 a.m. if that's what I wanted to do.
And did he ever say that it was?
No.
Okay.
No, he never did. It was more me, like, waking up the next day with a hangover and him being like, what do you need? Like, you want water? Gatorade? I'll go make you some food. And I'm like, no, I can't have any of it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just going to lie in bed until 4 p.m. And I was like, wow, this is like a lot for you to do just because I want to drink.
I've had several of those nights, and I can appreciate the, for lack of a better term, sense of burden that it gives to someone else who you're living with of, I can't move, I can't open my eyes, can you please go to the store and get me a bottle of Pedialyte so I don't feel like I'm dying for the next 8 hours. So I can definitely appreciate that sense of, like, in my opinion, I see it as guilting myself into a healthier lifestyle so I don't become as much of a burden. I can't say that's the same thing for anyone else, but in my mind, in my life, that's how I view it, of like, I always want to be someone who gives to a relationship of any type. So if I feel like I'm taking too much, I'm like, I feel awful about this, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. Well, in the hangovers, they're like, literally, I was like, I cannot move. If I move, then I'm going to throw up, or my head is throbbing, or something like that. Hangovers.
It's almost like the whole relationship has a hangover that day, not just the one person.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not like, we're not going to make Sunday morning plans.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Why would we do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's freed up a lot of time for other things.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And at this time, were you a bartender? What did you do professionally at this moment in time?
I was a bartender. I was a bartender literally until I decided to get sober. And then at that point, I was like, I don't think I can personally keep working in a bar environment and like maintain sobriety. So for me, it was just best to leave bartending, which is something I definitely am glad I did. You know, I think that environment, um, I don't know if you know very many people in the service industry, but that environment is very challenging
Mm-hmm.
for alcohol use in general.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do now professionally?
Now I'm building my brand, the Sober X Bartender. So making different cocktail recipes, working with other brands to make sure their formulations of their products are good. And then also, um, we had planned to open the hookah lounge last year. We signed a lease in March.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of time, just doing the construction and everything, and we were able to do it at a slower pace because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're just ready to open and waiting for the go ahead from the government on when it's going to be safe. So a couple
Awesome.
different things going on. Yeah. Like to think of myself very, very entrepreneurial.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And what was the point that you're like, hey, let's make an account called Sober X Bartender? So when did that transfer go into in your sobriety?
I was, I've changed my handle a couple times actually, but about 3 days into my sobriety, I made an account. And originally it was called No Low Movement. Um, I ended up changing it and then changing it again. I don't know. I have like Instagram handle ADD, but um, I settled on the Sober X Bartender probably in September. Um, but literally like 3 days in, I was like, I'm just gonna make it an account, and I started the account more for myself than anything else, just as like an accountability thing. I noticed there were a lot of people that are in this like sober Instagram space, and there was a lot of inspiration there and a lot of sharing of ideas. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to make an account and I'm going to start posting, especially if I ever have a craving or if I'm ever having difficulty or challenges, but also just like any good things I noticed. And it was almost like a sober journal, but public. And then the more I started doing it, the more people started engaging with it. And I was like, oh, like not only am I helping myself stay sober by creating this, but I'm helping other people find their sobriety, or I'm helping answer other people's questions about sobriety, or they're resonating with my experience and they want to like follow along on this journey. So that was when it was like, okay, like I really want to keep this going and make it a little bit more official, maybe make a website and like make it to where people can use this as a real resource to help aid in their sobriety or their sober curiosity, to clarify.
Absolutely. And how do you feel as though like sobriety and non-alcoholic and alcohol-free beverages come together? Because it seems as though like there's like different communities, and a lot of people don't seem it's really right for people who are sober to drink these beverages. But there's many people who disagree with that. How do you think they kind of like? Do you think they should interact? And obviously you think so because you consume them. But like, what are your thoughts upon that?
It's a good question. You know, I think I've mentioned it before on my page and kind of talked about this idea, but I think that sobriety is a spectrum. And I think that it's everything from like strict sobriety, where maybe you don't even drink things that emulate alcoholic drinks, even if they are zero point 0. And there's also like this other end where maybe you're sober curious, maybe you're Cali sober, which I don't know if you guys have heard of that one, but
I'm
it's
not
where you
familiar with
don't
that.
drink but you do smoke weed.
Cali. So okay.
So that's another.
Okay, now
Cali
that you
sober.
say that, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, the name fits as soon as you understand it.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe you're Cali sober, maybe you're sober sometimes, maybe you're all these different like things, but you still want to be a part of the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's these all these different ways that you can be sober, and I don't think any one is right. Just like I think there's all these different reasons that you can drink non-alcoholics, and it's not like any one of them is the right reason, right? You can drink them because you want to take a day off from drinking, just a day. You can drink them because they taste freaking delicious.
Mm-hmm.
You can drink them because you're just any reason, you're pregnant or you're
Working out.
just unable to drink alcohol, like physically unable to drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many different reasons. And so I think even though some people in the sobriety space have this sort of like animosity towards non-alcoholic drinks, that's their personal journey. And that's totally okay. I don't think anyone should shove it down their throats and be like, you have to drink non-alcoholics. Like, but in the same breath, as a sober person, like I want to drink non-alcoholic products. I personally define my sobriety as only drinking things that are less than 1% ABV, like 1 or less. So I'm not even strictly 0.5. And I've never been drunk. So in this last 15 months, drinking 1% kombuchas every now and then, it doesn't get me drunk. So that's my definition of my sobriety. And I think it's cool that everybody has their own different path that they follow.
Absolutely. And personally, I think it's more of like I 100% agree with that. And I think it's more like a mindset. I feel like sobriety is more like just like mindfulness in so many different ways, whether that's with, any sort of drug or anything. And I feel like it has such a negative like perception by people. I don't know why. Maybe it's based upon just the stigma of these people are bettering themselves and I dislike myself, so I'm going to hate on you for it. I'm going to guess that's pretty much why. That's why any hate really happens, right? It's just personal discomfort, take it on other people. But I think it's exactly like a spectrum of sobriety. So I never heard of Cali sober, by the way.
Yeah, neither have I. That's awesome.
That is pretty awesome. Shit. Smoke a little reef every once in a while, drink some non-alcoholic beverages maybe, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's going to become a lot more common now that marijuana is being legalized in even more places.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the shift towards non-alcoholics as well, because for a lot of people, if they do prefer like marijuana, then maybe they don't drink because of that. Just, mixing the two can have some adverse effects, so...
Absolutely. It's really going towards like that mindfulness. It's definitely like a common theme I see. Cause I feel like smoking weed specifically, like I think you're more mindful than you are drunk. I feel like I can think more intensely and actually, I don't know. I just feel like I'm getting better still. I don't know. Like I feel like when I drink alcohol, nothing about my brain or anything in that situation is getting better. Besides maybe I'm more fun or, enthusiastic at the time. But that's, I don't know. I feel like, it's definitely going that mindful route, and I'm looking forward to see how like the marijuana industry grows with the NA scene, and just seeing all these cool communities and all these different vibes come together, and hopefully everyone's still like welcoming each other, because that's the time where I will be quite sad, is when someone's like, oh, you're this type of sober, or this, because it's just a mindset. That's why I like keeping it that, you can label whatever you want. But you're just being mindful and you're getting better. That's all that matters. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's so true. I think mindfulness does have a lot to do with it too. It's interesting you said that. When I first got sober and was talking to someone about it, I was like, there's so many aspects of our life where we're trying to become more mindful. And that's why I think this generation has more people that are sober, or more people that drink less often or are mindful drinkers. That's what they call it. Because it's more of this focus on like, how can I better the earth? How can I better like my community? How can I better my relationships? How can I better myself? And inherently, cutting out excessive alcohol use is bettering yourself. But I think you're right. I do think that some people have a negative stigma against it because of that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like you don't want to see someone do well, but kind of you don't. Right?
Yeah.
Then it feels like you're not doing well.
Yeah, it's an internal or like just like competition, right? I think that's just natural. But I hope it never turns to the point that's like if you drink alcohol, you're bad, right? Because I feel like it's gonna follow suit with cigarettes though, but not to the extent. It's like it's like taboo if you smoke cigs nowadays. But now you have vaping, which I compare it to like non-alcoholic beverages to an extent. I don't think health-wise they really are parallel, but I think just the concept of them, they're really similar. But I don't know. I just don't want people to think like, oh, if you drink alcohol a little bit, you know, you're bad or we look down upon you. Because no, I mean, you can kind of you be you, but like I think just overall betterment and like you were saying, mindfulness. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, so true. And I don't think, I think it's funny. I don't think there's very many people who are sober or in this space that look down on people who drink. But interestingly enough, I feel like there are a lot of people who drink who do
look down
on the sober community. And it's like a weird stigma against this idea of living life without alcohol. So I think it's just wild how that exists.
And I think that goes into like the idea of like most people drink because they have some form of personal discomfort, maybe socially. You might have personal problems and you kind of fulfill, those issues with alcohol. And obviously you dislike yourself internally. You might not register with that because you're not mindful enough to realize it. So you're going to look down upon other people and portray hate in so many different ways. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Love the thoughts. Yeah. Hey, let's write a book together. Any happy hour, Sober X Bartender, sobriety.
There we go.
The sobriety spectrum. You should write a book about like the spectrum of like sobriety.
I should write a book about a lot of things. I'll just add that one to my list.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing a lot of non-alcoholic spirits behind you. What are some of your favorite ones and favorite mocktails that you like to create?
That's a great question. Some of my favorites. This is still my favorite. I talk about it all the time. I'm obsessed with it. It's Monday Gin.
I've looked at that before. I haven't actually pulled the trigger and bought any yet.
I'm obsessed with it. I seriously am. They don't pay me. I just talk about them all the time. But it's like no alcohol, no sugar, no. There's nothing in it. I don't know how it tastes so good. It has like monk fruit as a sweetener instead of sugar. Mm-hmm. And then it has like juniper extract and all different kinds of extracts to make it taste like gin. And it's seriously like, I did really like gin and I really liked gin cocktails. So that's probably part of why I like it so much. But it tastes like gin. I mean, I haven't tried gin in like 15 months, so I can't be positive, but
yeah.
As far as I can remember, it tastes exactly like gin.
And I can see the Seedlip 104 herbal up front, I think it is.
Yeah, the 108.
108, that's what it is.
I do love.
Okay.
That's a number.
I have all the Seedlips. I love Seedlips as well. They're kind of they're divisive. I know that people either love them or they hate them. I love them. I think that they have like good flavor notes.
I just finished my 108 herbal, and the way that I describe it is that it's not the liquor substitute, but it is a great core compound. It's strong enough to be a core compound in a mocktail, but I would not call it a gin substitute or a vodka substitute, but it is flavorful enough that it can hold its own if you add some citrus to it or different types of extracts and bitters. Like it's strong enough on its own where it can be its own thing, but I wouldn't consider it a non-alcoholic gin or a non-alcoholic vodka or something.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're right, and it's kind of like a whole education process and teaching people how to use all these non-alcoholics that are coming out. And like, I think that the brands do a pretty good job of it, but some of them could do a little bit better, because if you go into it and you think like, oh, this is going to taste like gin, right? You're going to be sorely disappointed because it tastes nothing like gin. Yeah. It really doesn't. And I think that's why a lot of people are like, oh, this is fancy flavored water, but it does have that like flavor profile, like you said, and it's really interesting and unique. It's unique flavors. And so when you are mixing it, you can make something really delicious. And it's like either you could take a couple of really strong things to cover up the taste of alcohol, right? That's why you need a whole bunch of citrus and you need a whole bunch of sugar, because alcohol is such a strong taste. Or if you're not making something with alcohol, you're going to want lighter flavors, and you need less lemon. You need less of all these other things because you're not trying to mask this flavor.
Like
that's
strong
there.
ethanol, like punch you in the tongue flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a totally different ball game when you're mixing with something like seedlip. But I mean, there are some, like, actually, I don't mind this one, the
Ritual.
Ritual Tequila.
Zero proof. Yep.
It's not bad. I do not like their whiskey. I have been very open about that.
I agree with you on that one. I haven't had their tequila, but I can't get around to their whiskey. I had it. I've tried it on the rocks. I've tried it neat. I've tried it in mocktails, and I can't bring myself to agree with it.
I can't either. And I really wanted to, and I'm trying so hard. I'm like, maybe if I just mix it with this, like,
Yeah.
I just kept trying different things. I'm like, okay, maybe I just have to put some ginger with it, like a strong flavor, and just still, it was like liquid smoke.
Yeah.
More liquid smoke. So that one's not my favorite. But I know people who love it as well. Again, everybody's palate's different. Everybody's tastes are different. So that's just mine, and I do not like that one. But one of my other favorites, this is a specific brand. I do like this brand, Somm. I don't know if you can see it or if it's whiting out. But this is a cane vinegar cordial. Or I make a lot of my own shrubs. But it's some type of good quality vinegar, fruit, and sugar. And that combination makes what's called a shrub. And shrubs are like so good for non-alcoholics. They're delicious.
So what is a shrub?
It's just a combination of vinegar. I usually use apple cider vinegar, but you can also use like champagne vinegar or different types of vinegars. And then fruit or vegetables or herbs. And you use that to like pull all the flavor out of it, and sugar, and those three things together. So you'll get rid of all the fruit. Let's say you're making a strawberry shrub, you would mix like strawberry and sugar together, let it sit for a day to pull all the juice out, add in the vinegar, and then strain it all out, and it makes this like liquid. So this one is pineapple Szechuan by Somm.
Interesting.
And it's so good.
So would that be kind of like an additive ingredient, almost like Angostura bitters or vermouth or something in a mocktail?
You can use it as a base even in a mocktail.
Huh.
Yeah. And so vinegar is kind of a weird thing, and a lot of people don't like drinking vinegars, but they're technically, shrubs are just called drinking vinegars, and you mix it with like soda water or you can mix it with lime and cider or, whatever, depending on the flavor of the shrub. But the vinegar, I feel like it just adds this bitterness, it adds this complexity, it adds like a little bit of savory in there. And so it just kind of elevates the non-alcoholics cocktails and just makes them like a little bit more interesting and a little bit more grown up, in my opinion. So I love them.
Definitely. I can see that because the vinegar does add a little bit of that natural bite to it that you would be missing on a typical gin, vodka, whiskey, rum type of thing. I never thought to use vinegar. That's really interesting. We need to collaborate on a mocktail or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Shrubs were the soda before there was soda. So this is like old pioneer knowledge. This isn't like new and modern. This is old, and it was forgotten as soon as like Coca-Cola and Sprite and all these companies came out. But people used to make shrubs all the time. Like this was something that would have commonly been done by people in the colonial era. They would have made their own shrubs and then mixed it with their water just to make it taste more interesting. And also it's probiotic, gut health, it's all these good things mixed with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of flavor. So I think they're amazing, and it's the craft cocktail community that brought them back in the early 2000s. But I think it's the non-alcoholic cocktail community that's going to like make them new again and make them really come out.
probably because they need them more than anything. I was gonna say it's more of a need, and it's interesting though, because I wonder if the consumer shouldn't, like you were saying, like expect the product to taste just like the alcoholic version. So I'm gonna guess these companies create these products with that knowledge that they're meant to be, combined with things. So obviously a consumer needs to go into that like knowing, these are meant for these types of products, so then they taste more like them. And so I guess really deep diving into that, what are your favorite cocktails mocktails, cocktails, however you define it? Like, what is your favorite to make?
I can't pick a favorite.
Top 2.
That's so mean to pick a favorite. I really love every flavor. I love every taste. There's not very much that I don't like. So I like making a unique alcohol-free cocktail like every single time. I'm definitely not the type of person where I'll make the same drink over and over and over. I will constantly, I'll go to the grocery store, I'll check in the produce section, I'll see what's fresh, I'll see what's in season, and that's how I'm gonna build my cocktail. But if I'm I just want a cocktail and I want to make an easy one and it's like tried and true, I really love the Monday Gin with the Fever Tree Elderflower Tonic.
Ooh.
So it gives it like a little floral note and so delicious. With lemon.
I gotta try some of these out. I'm still diving into the spirits side of the non-alcoholic scene. So
there's a lot.
Yeah. Monday's definitely on the list to make a purchase of soon.
Yeah, you have to like gin in order to like it, but if you like mixing gin, then definitely it should be on the list.
Awesome.
It's so good. But there's even more, every single time I check my phone or look online, I'm finding another one just popped up, and then there's a new one today, and I found another one 3 days ago. I'm like, where are they coming from? They're just popping out of the woodworks. They're like, we offer non-alcoholics. And where'd you come from?
Where'd you come from?
Crazy.
And where are you based, and where can I buy you?
Yeah, exactly. Every day there's something new. So, today this is my favorite, but who knows what it's going to be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I don't know. We kind of hit all the points that I wanted to go over, the love story to the love of cocktails and everything. Yeah. Where I guess kind of to start to wrap things up a little bit, where can people find you? You mentioned a website, social media handles. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my website is the Sober X Bartender, and it's just the letter X, Bartender. My handle is the same, and I'm on Instagram mostly. I do have a private Facebook group I just started, just for a couple of us who are really geeky and interested in the non-alcoholics to chat with each other and be like, oh, what are you drinking tonight? What are you making? Where I don't have to worry about making the Instagram perfect photos and everything. We can just be like, hey, what are you drinking? So that's been fun, but that's just a smaller little side thing. And I have a TikTok, but that's just me being weird, really.
I mean, we got a TikTok where I am incredibly weird on it, because you put me in front of a camera like that, I am the most awkward person ever, so.
Right? I love it. I feel like that's what TikTok's for.
Yeah, definitely.
It's for anyone to be themselves and portray that in so many different ways, and TikTok is a whole. It's very simple. It's a very simple concept. Addicting as hell, that's for sure. But so stimulating, and you can show so much information and so much expertise on anything. And I don't even. We always question what is going to be the next social media app, and that's a whole nother conversation. But damn, I don't know what could get better than TikTok.
I know.
But shoot, I've seen your TikTok videos. I freaking love them. They're unique. They're definitely showing you, which is the best part of it. and also
Thank you.
alcohol-free and non-alcoholic stuff for sure.
Yeah, I'm tending to make more where I'm just being a dork, honestly. But we'll see where it goes. I don't know. Who knows? I keep thinking I really need to make alcohol-free cocktails on TikTok as well.
Yeah,
I
we
think that
talked
would be a
about
good
that. Yeah.
place to do that, but we'll see.
Someone out there wants to see it, and I mean,
Right?
there's at least one person that's really all that matters for sure. And I always question, what is the scene like on TikTok? But as we know how the market is, it's younger consumers. So I mean, no other better place to go than TikTok, at least making an impact. So
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, it's so true.
Absolutely.
It's so true.
Definitely. I would love to join your Facebook group.
You are more than welcome.
I would love to. I'm always looking for new mocktail recipes and all that stuff. So I would love to hang out and see what other people are doing and throw what little knowledge I have down. So
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like Instagram because I feel like it's a great space and a good community, and it's easy to get your information out to 100 people. But it's terrible for a conversation, especially between multiple people. The comment section just isn't conducive to that.
Yeah.
So that's why I ended up making the Facebook group, because I was like, I just want to talk to 5 people at the same time instead of just at this person. So the Facebook group is just so much better for conversation and people posting something and being like, what am I missing? And then someone's like, why don't you throw a couple dashes of bitters in that? Or did you think about this? So it's just great.
that's awesome. Yeah. Wow.
Anything else?
I'm good.
I'm maxed out too. Well, yeah, this was a pleasure. I mean, as much as I'm one that isn't a big mocktail person because I'm not a big spirits guy, but you have definitely interested me more than anyone else. I don't mean to crap on anyone else, but I've actually looked at your content more than about anyone else's. So it's definitely intriguing, and I hope it is for everyone else because it's one growing industry. And spirits, non-alcoholic beer, definitely the top of the charts for sure. And I'm looking forward to where you are a year from now because I can only imagine all the stuff you're about to create, and hopefully your beautiful ball you're going to have with your husband. See how maybe your stuff will interact with that as well, and I'll look forward to seeing how that grows for sure.
Well, thanks. Thanks, guys.
Definitely.